career real quick. Explain to me, when did you get interested in hockey, and who was your biggest influencer in that, and what was it like playing for the Buffalo Sabres?
Well, I got in. I'm a small town Canada kid. You know, my town had 1,200 people. So in our town, we had like one gas station, a bank, a grocery store, a convenience store, a feed mill, and an arena. That's pretty much what was there. It's a farm town. So, everybody played. So I started playing at 2, played my first travel team at 3. I moved away from home at 15 to go play junior. And so it was just kind of a whirlwind from there. Each year it just seemed like a constant progression up, and played tier 2 and then major junior in Cornwall, and then drafted to Buffalo, then went to Rochester, and, fortunate enough to stay as long as I did here. But, here it's just such a great place to play. It's a city, but it's a small town. Everybody knows everybody. You walk down the street, everybody knows who you are. It's just amazing the feel you get to play here. And when things are good, you can't be in a better place. The people here are fantastic, the way they follow the team, the support. And like I said, we've struggled for a few years now, and you're still getting great support from the fans. So, they're desperate for something to turn around, but, it'll come. But overall, I don't think in my career, I went to Ottawa at the end. It was great because I was a little closer to my family. But for over the big part, it was great having them as close as they were, that were able to experience everything with me.
Now, Rob, now we're in this new playoff format, and I want to talk about the two of the teams that were one team that I root for is the New York Islanders. What do you think of the Islanders' chances in this playoff format that they're in this qualifier round? And do you think they have a chance to, I wouldn't say win the cup because I don't think they're that talented, but just try to make, just make a little dent?
I think they can do well because the style of game they play, it's not an exciting game. And they just play a solid, boring forecheck in your face, take the plays away from you, and just kind of drown you out. It's hard to get something going against these guys. Trotz is an excellent coach. He's a fabulous coach. And he, in a tournament style like this, I think he would have a good advantage over a lot of the guys that he's going to be coaching again. But like I said, when you're not leaning on superstars to carry the load, because they got to spread across 4 lines. They can take at you whatever you want to do. They got a great fourth line that'll just hammer the crap out of you physically. They'll come at you. They got guys, Barzell and these guys, offensively, they can be explosive. They got good, solid veteran D. Goaltending has been pretty good for them, too. So, the Islanders, I like them. It's a tough game for us when we play the Islanders. It was a place, going down there, it's hard to play. And, even on the road, they're going to play the same game at home as they do on the road. And when you got a team that can do that, it's pretty darn tough to compete against because you can't – too many times teams want to play their own game, and they just don't let you do it. They dictate the style of game they want to play.
Yeah. So I'm a Rangers fan here too. So Rangers fan. So what do you?
And you guys like each other?
Listen. Well, we're both Yankee fans.
Yeah.
So that's how we kind of.
So that's okay. That draws you together then. That's fine.
You have to remember, he's a Dallas Cowboys fan. I'm a New York Giants fan.
Oh, okay.
So the only common ground is we're both Yankee fans. That's the only common ground.
That's all it takes sometimes, isn't it?
Yes.
One thing.
Now, Nate says he wants to talk about the Rangers. The Rangers were a surprise. So how can the Rangers do – because they've had success against the Hurricanes. How can the Rangers do in this style? Because they're an up-and-down speed type of team, especially with Capo and Zibanejad.
Yeah, I look at the Rangers. That's another well-coached team, and they're going to have the goaltending. They've had solid goaltending all year. If anything, maybe that's a young team. That's a young team that is probably a year or two ahead of themselves in their development, and actually kind of a surprise. So to where they're playing, but I give them a lot of credit for the way they have played because they have caught a lot of teams off guard. They did it to the Sabres this year, and it's just they play an easy game, but because they're young, sometimes you get in a situation like this that may be a little overwhelming for them. I don't think so, but I think because they've had enough time to think about it and plan for it. But I'm looking at it, if I was going to pick them or the Islanders, I'm picking the Islanders in that situation because, just the experience they have and maybe a little more relaxed, laid-back game. But I'll tell you, the Rangers are going to be a hell of a team the next few years because they got some young studs down there that they can play the game. They play the game hard and they play it right.
I agree. There's another matchup that I'm very interested in, and there's two matchups. The first matchup, I want to talk about the Penguins versus Montreal. That's a very interesting matchup. You know, we got the Penguins. They're good, but they're getting older. Crosby, Malkin, they're a little bit long in the tooth. And you got Carey Price, who's a veteran goaltender who can steal games. Talk about that matchup, and what's the keys to that match?
Well, the key to that one is Carey Price, as you just said. If he can come and play the game that he can play, he's had a tough time the last couple of years keeping it together. But Montreal it's a young hockey team. That is a young hockey team, and you know they're a little bit ahead of themselves too. They're a small, fast, quick team. But when you're in a situation like this with the Pittsburgh Penguins, I don't care how old Sidney Crosby is, Malkin, these guys, Letang, they got experience, and nothing rattles these guys. And they just play the game and play it right. And I think the defense for the Montreal Canadiens is where they're going to be able to be victimized. And that's the greatest asset to the Pittsburgh Penguins is their offense. And I think once they get working in the offensive zone against Montreal, their defense, I think that's where they're going to break them down. That's why Carey Price has got to be spectacular for them to give themselves a chance.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I always say goaltending in playoffs always steals matchup. Like if you have a hot goaltender, it can carry you. Do you think that which teams do you think goaltending wise that are in the qualifying route that could actually make a deep run of the teams that are qualified?
Well, I think you got to look at the teams at the top. You know, like Washington with Holtby, these kind of guys with experience. You know, Boston. You know, Tuukka Rask, these kind of teams. They've got that stellar guy that has been there before, done it, experience, veteran guy. I think I look at those two teams and expect to see those guys play a huge role for them. And I think in a lot of cases, you're going to get mismatched in goaltending. You know, where like Carolina, you know, not too sure about this goaltending there. It's going to be hot and cold, just up and down. Yeah. So there's a few teams that is going to be their Achilles heel, I think.
Yeah. My question here: what's it going to feel like not seeing fans in the stadium when the hockey season comes back? Because hockey, they need fans in the stadium, but how weird is it going to feel like when there's no fans in there?
I'll tell you what. We played in Long Island one night, and there was a snowstorm, and there was 1,200 people in the stands. 1,200, and it was the crazy eeriest thing you'd ever experienced, because sometimes you have practices that there's more people than that in the stands, you know, when they open up the practices and everything. So it is different. It's going to be hard to get the guys, not the focus, but the motivation, because I think you get so much motivation out of the noise, the fans, you know, the yelling and screaming. You know, guys say they don't hear that a lot, you know, when people talk or yell in the fan, but it creates that environment in the building. And I think it's going to be hard for them sometimes and a big responsibility for themselves to try to generate that enthusiasm and that emotion amongst themselves playing with nobody in there. And I think just by knowing the prize at the end should be enough to get them going. But it'll be different to watch. I'll tell you, I know when you sit in a building and just, you know, practice with nobody in there, you talk, you say anything to anybody, it echoes through the whole building. So it could be interesting to hear what was said to a lot of the guys out there too.
Let's go to the Western Conference, and I think Connor McDavid is the best player in hockey. And if people don't know, this kid is incredible. Now, I feel that him and Leon Draisaitl are the two best players on that team. What will it take for Edmonton to make a run? Because I feel like they're good, but I feel like there's something missing with that team.
Well, I think I'll look at those guys and maybe experience is what's going to hamper them a little bit. Maybe their defensive core a little bit there too. You know, I know you got Draisaitl and McDavid. These guys are world class, two of the best in the game right now. But I'm not sure if those two guys can overcome, you know, some of the teams they're going to end up playing in the West. You know, Colorado, teams like this that, you know, they're strong, man. They're fast and strong. And they're going to throw 3-4 lines at you when Edmonton's throwing, you know, a line and a half at you. That's what they're getting out of you. So, you know, it just comes to down how deep the team is going to be. And I just don't think Edmonton right now yet has got that depth that is going to be able to carry them across the line. And even though they got two of the greatest players in the game right now on their team, it's still going to be difficult for them.
Interesting.
I agree.
Yeah. So what? what's it like? So whenever obviously they're back, I guess back at practicing, and whenever the real games start, how we're the fights. Do you think it's gonna be more fights still or less?
No,
Fights?
I don't think they're going to be allowed to fight. That's
Oh.
going to be one of the things that's outlawed, and there's no fighting. There's a lot of things that they're going to have to deal with. No, spitting in on the bench, individual water, all that kind of stuff. And as far as the fighting, I think that's going to be the thing that they're going to be laying down, saying there's no fighting whatsoever. You're going to be out, and just to try to keep that bearskin contact from each other. And at least, if you're out there pushing and shoving or banging body check wise, the equipment's there for the protection, for whatever could be passed on or whatever. But they're fighting. No, that fighting side of it is not going to be a part of the game in this tournament.
Tampa, I'm going to go back to the East. Tampa has so much pressure. They have great lines. They got Stamkos and they got Plum Pie and all those other great players. What will it take for Tampa? Because I feel like if they don't win the cup at some point with the players they have, it's going to be a lot of pressure. And Cooper has so much pressure on him.
Yeah, he does. And they're in a tough situation too, salary cap too. So there's a lot of guys that are looking to start getting some money down there that they're going to have to sign. And they got a lot of big tickets, Hedman, their goaltending. But what they have, if Stamkos can play to his level, he's just kind of been quiet the last little while. Yeah. He plays at his level. Kucherov, he's one of the most exciting guys in the game right now.
Love Kuch. Love him.
When you watch him and Victor Hedman on the back end, but they've got experienced defense. They got good goaltending. They got experienced defense that even if somebody's not going, they got depth in their defense that they can throw in guys, that can play a huge role for them. So overall, depth-wise, in the East, you got to put Tampa right at the top. I put them with the Bostons and the Washingtons here in this East side because, experience, depth, veteran leadership, they got it all. And they can be so explosive offensively that, it's going to be tough for teams. If they don't get off to a good start against them, it's going to be tough for them to play. Because, I don't know, like, say, Columbus last year having success with them by just going in and banging those guys around. That's not the same team. They got some beef on their team now, and they've got a little more grit that they didn't have last year. And I think that'll be a huge role for them and a huge part for them walking into this playoff round.
Will Tuukka Rask ever lead Boston to a cup? I know he was the backup to Tim Thomas in 2011, but will Tuukka Rask actually be the guy to lead them to actually winning a cup? They were close in 2013. They were close last year. He lost both games on his home ice. Will Tuukka Rask be the guy to lead them to a cup?
He can. He can be that guy that can lead them. He's that good. He knows what it takes to be in that position. I think a lot has to do with these guys. It's almost like when somebody gets injured or they get tired, that team starts getting a little loose defensively. They got offensive power. They're going to come at you. But they get a little loose defensively sometimes, and that's when Tuukka Rask gets victimized. But in this situation now, when you got Zdeno Chara and all these guys that are going to be 100% rested and healthy and ready to go, that it's going to help him so much because they're going to be able to play that game in front of him. He's not going to have a wink out there in front of him that he's going to have to worry about in the defensive zone. But so, yeah, Tuukka Rask, he can be the guy. He's a special goaltender as well. So, if Boston can keep offensively going, they're always strong defensively by their forwards. But if their defensive core can stay healthy and they can stay fresh, then it's only going to help Tuukka do the job.
Yeah, I got to ask you about the New Jersey Devils' new hire. They hired a former assistant coach from the Rangers. I think his name is Lindy.
Lindy Ruff.
Lindy Ruff was he was my coach here in Buffalo for a number of years. He took us to the finals in '99, and
yes, he did.
I actually played with Lindy my first year here before he went to the Rangers. And Lindy's a fabulous guy. He's a good man. He's a guy that puts his heart and soul into it. And I'll tell you, when New Jersey hits the ice, they are going to be prepared. Not only physically, they're going to be prepared mentally and know exactly what to do. I know in '99 we didn't have the most skilled team in the world. But I'll tell you, every time we rolled into a game, into a playoff series, we knew what to expect. We knew what to do immediately. It just came secondary to us because of the preparation Lindy puts in. And, I think he's going to do a great job down there. At the end of Lindy's tenure as a head coach, with us, he was having a hard time a little bit dealing with the younger guys coming in. But since he's been an assistant coach, he's been in Dallas and the Rangers, he's kind of – we've talked about it. And he said, I had to start learning to see how to deal with the young guys, how to communicate with them, and he's done it. And he's put a lot of work and effort into it to do that, and I think that's only going to benefit him.
I agree. I think that's a nice hire for the Devils. I mean, and I think they'll be more prepared and more focused now. Are you surprised about Philadelphia's season?
Hey, Philadelphia is another one of those hard-working teams, man. They come at you, and they got some guys up front now that they got balls of steel that they're try stuff. Like Voracek and these guys, they go, they play hard, but they don't play a hesitant game. You know, they got some guys on the backside that can play a physical tough game. Goaltending Carter Hart was fabulous this year. He did great, especially at home. He had some great games, and it's just a team once again that knows what they have. Okay, they don't try to be something they're not. They know their limitations. They play within it, but they play 4 lines. You know, it's not a team that leans on the top 2 lines. They got a little offense on every line, but they've got that Philadelphia grit grind. It's in your face a little more than what they've had lately, and that along with some good goaltending, they got some nice speed up front, and if they can stay healthy, I think that's a team that could catch somebody by surprise.
They remind me of that Philly team in 2010 that went to the finals.
Yep.
That grit, that hard-working, blue-collar, take your lunch pail to work, hit the ice, and just knock you on your front side like every game. And I'll tell you, in this day and age, the way the players are, they can be intimidated so easily because they don't have that, inside that pushback sometimes. So if you get in their face and hard on them early, they back off a little bit. They start backing off. They did it the last once this year. They come out hard in Philadelphia. They hammered the piss out of us early physically, and our guys backed right off. And it just gave them the room to get themselves going, got us backed off, and they had us down by 5, 2 periods in, and we're in deep trouble. But because of that style of game they played, they caught them off guard, and they didn't have an answer for it. I remember when the Islanders were drawn down 3-0 to Philly, and they came back. And the Islanders and Philly play a very similar style. I think Philly just has more offense than the Islanders do. But they play a similar blue-collar, in-your-face, grind out games. And that's why you see a lot of Islander-Philly games are so close, because they play a defensive-minded sound team. While when the offense comes, it comes. Now, if you were to pick in any team from the qualifying round, East or West, that could make a run to the Stanley Cup Finals, who would it be?
Oh man, out here, I got to look at Tampa. You got to look at Boston, and Washington. These 3 teams are the upper echelon of the East here right now. I look out west, and it's hard to get past Colorado, man. That's a good Nathan McKinnon. These guys. McCarr, these guys are good. They're young, they're fast, and they just go. And I think if those guys can stay healthy, they could do something special as well.
I agree. I agree. One thing I never understood about the Buffalo Sabres, and the Islanders play the Sabres pretty well too. And one thing I don't understand is that why did the Sabres and I remember the Sabres had like a nice point streak and they fall off, or they start off well and they get hot late. Like, what's with the inconsistency with Buffalo? They never seem to be consistent.
Yeah, they've done it the last 2 years. The last 2 years in a row, they've been at first place in the first month of the season. Yeah. And then, ending in the bottom 5, in concession, the same thing. I think it comes down to experience sometimes. I think they come out, they're gung-ho, they're fired up, catch some teams by surprise. Our power play was on fire last year at the beginning of the year, and it made a huge difference. It tailed off a little bit. Our penalty killing tailed off a little bit. Offensively, they weren't able to keep it up as well and consistent as they did in the past. So, I think it just comes down to that maturity level of what these guys are doing.
I agree. I think if you're going to come down to that, I think the maturity level is one thing that needs to get shapen up. Now, here's a question. Here's a question. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yep.
I'll put you on the spot. It's me and Nate. If you had to pick going forward, not even this season, But going forward, who do you think would win the Stanley Cup, the Rangers or the Islanders? Who's going to win one first?
I'm going to go with the Rangers.
Yeah.
Oh. Why?
Well, we go back and talk about the youth they have in that team. You know, they talked about rebuilding 2 years ago, was it? They sent out and said, hey, we're in a rebuilding stage. But they've done a heck of a job drafting, bringing in players. They got a good young group of core. They got, you know, Henrik Lundqvist now is going to be the odd man out probably, and he's going to be gone.
Yeah.
You got two young goaltenders, which, you know, any team out there that if they say they had two young goaltenders that they're fighting for a job, you know, they'd pay anything for that. So, yeah, I think that the Rangers, and you know what? The Rangers are the team that will probably maybe be able to spend a little more on somebody to fill in holes than what the Islanders are going to do as well. But, you know, I look at the Islanders, they got some aging guys on there, you know, Josh Bailey, these kind of guys, Clutterbuck and these guys that, you know, they're getting a little long, you know, a little older. Are they going to be able to keep that jam up? And it doesn't, other than Barzal's young guys coming in, they really haven't filled in with the younger generation, or, you know, draft picks and all that kind of thing coming through. That may change. That may change overnight. But right now, if I was going to look at both rosters and moving forward, I would lean towards the Rangers.
Don't bet against Lou. Don't bet against Lou Lamoriello.
No, I wouldn't bet against Lou in a second. No, because he's a smart man, and he's done miracles over the year. But, you know,
he built that Toronto team.
But it comes down to his ability to be able to spend as well. And, you know, sometimes that's in that situation with the Islanders. Who knows, you know, what that's going to be like.
I gotta ask you about Lundqvist though. What's the future with Lundqvist? Because I feel like he deserves to win a championship. And so after this year, do you think we'll release him or at some point trade him, or do you think he'll actually he has a no trade clause? So I think he wants to stay in New York. But is there a way that do you think we'll release him, and then do you think he'll play for another team or just retire?
Well, I think the guy, from what he says, he wants to keep playing. And I think he'd be a great goaltender in a situation of a veteran team where, you know, he's going to split time or something and not be dependent to play every night. But they'll be in a situation here coming up next year, too, with the expansion draft. You know, you can only protect so much, and you're going to have to put guys available. Or do you move them before that to try to trade an asset such as he is to somebody to get something for him so you don't just lose him for free?
I got like two more. Here's the big one. Islanders are building a new arena out in Belmont. Do you think that can help draw free agents to the Islanders instead of this whole two-stadium Nassau Barclays thing?
I'll tell you what, I loved going to Nassau, and we got to go there twice in the last 2 years, and it was sick. You know, I know it's a small number of people in there, but I think the people out there realize now what they had. And then when you lose it downtown, you still don't have that same environment. But I think if they can get themselves an established arena out, you know, to the city and being where they need to be, where their Islander fans are, then I think it's huge. And I think that the people, it's the same as anywhere. When they lose something, they don't realize what they had till they lost it, and then they have that love again for it. So I think that they probably learned their lesson a little bit, and now that if they do come back and be in the building out in their home ground, then I think it'd be supported. And all it takes is having a good team, too. You're going to have people in the building as long as you got a good team. You got a good young star there. You know, Barzal, he's going to be a guy that's going to draw people in there for a long time. So I think they'll be fine out there.
I agree.
I'll tell you what, Barclays is a pain in the butt. Not only in the work that we do now, you literally, I'm between the benches, but our play-by-play guys like sitting in the stands and, you know, getting into the building, getting out of the building, getting to the airport afterward. What a pain in the butt that is.
I'll tell you this, man. It was not meant for hockey. It was not built for hockey.
No, it's not.
The thing when they were designing it, they weren't even anticipating a hockey team. It was meant for concerts and basketball. Yeah. They were not anticipating a hockey team. Barclays saved the Islanders from moving out to Kansas City. It saved them. So in essence, it kept the Islanders in New York. That was the goal, was to keep them in New York. So we'll see. We hope. And the Islanders do have decision. I know Barzal's a restricted free agent, and so is Devon Taves. So they'll probably lock him up, and they're probably going to have to find a way. With Letty and Boychuk, they're going to have to find a way to cut that salary, the Andrew Ladd's salary. So they're going to have to make moves and decide about Martin and Clutterbuck, because like you said, they're up in age. They're up in age, and This is a young man team now.
As you said, you got the right guy in charge there right now to make those moves, because Lou is a well-respected guy in the game. So when he needs to make something happen, he's got the knowledge and he's got the connection to make sure that he can get done what he needs to get done. I wouldn't worry about that side of the game, because he will more than take care of that, because the way his past record is proved.
Yeah. Also, what do you think about the expansion team in Seattle?
Well, hopefully they get everything cleared up out there before we have to go out. But, you know what? So be it. Expansion, I guess it's good for the owners. It's good for the league. It's good for guys. I look at expansion sometimes when it happens that it kind of weeds down the game a little bit. So you got another 25 guys in the game in the NHL, in the Premier League in the world, that normally wouldn't be there. Because not only them, there'll be a handful of them on the team, but all other teams got to fill those other spots in with guys. So, I just think it weeds the game down a little bit. And if you get too many teams, sometimes it takes away from the game itself. So, I know I played when there was 21 teams and then it worked its way up and you could see the progression. Yeah, the players are good, but I don't think the game would be quite as good as if you still had the 21 teams and you had guys fighting for. And I don't think you'd have to pay guys quite as much either if you had, less teams, because there's less options for them to go play. So I think there's a lot of downfalls to it, but I think in the big picture, it must be good for the NHL and the money they make and all that kind of thing. And that's what it's all about.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Who wins the cup this year? Who wins the cup this year?
I think I'm going to stick in the East, and I'm going to take the Boston Bruins.
Ooh,
wow. Tuukka Rask finally brings a cup home. Yeah. You heard it here first. Tuukka Rask gets it done.
Woo. Well, you never know.
And and lastly, Nate, before we wrap this, I want to talk about the CBA extension, and because right now, you see in the MLB, they had a hard time agreeing to a deal. The NBA finally got into a bubble, and the NFL looks like they're going to plow through a season. What do you think about the NHL and their agreement with the CBA and how Gary Bettman has handled this pandemic as opposed to all the other owners?
I think that the NHL handled this very well, because what they've done is keep the interest. They've had something to talk about all the time, whether coming back to play, the draft lottery, when are they doing the draft? So there was never a time when the NHL was out of the news. And I think that's the big thing, keeping the people's interest, keeping it out there so they're always thinking about it. Sometimes I'm not a real big Bettman fan, but in this case, I think he did it very well. And as far as the players and the Players Association coming together for a deal, this might have been the best thing to happen to get these guys to the table and maybe for the players as well to understand the financial side of the game, not just their own personal finances, but the financial side of the game for organizations. Because you look at a team like ours that's going to lose tens of millions of dollars this year, and there's going to be a lot of other teams in that same boat. And for those guys to continue to make the money they are and stay viable and still have all the jobs and get paid their way, work with the league. And they need to be that partner with the league to make sure it survives and, you can make as much money as possible. So, I think it was a great eye-opener for the players here. Just to realize what the whole business side was all about when they took the time to really understand it and see what was happening around the league.
I agree, man. That was perfect.
I got some rapid fire questions for you now.
All right.
Go ahead, Nate.
All right. Favorite food?
Oh, for me, I'd eat a burger every day. Bacon cheeseburger. Oh, bring it on.
Kawhi Leonard's laugh or Kevin Hart's laugh?
Oh, I like Hart. He's a pretty funny little guy. He just seems to weasel his way into everything, and he makes it funny out of everything. So, yeah, I like the way he works.
What was your most memorable game that you played in when you were playing?
I got to think my first game. I got called up. We played in Pittsburgh. I scored a goal in my first shot in the NHL, and I ended up getting a goal and 2 assists. I was +3. And statistically wise, it was the best game I ever had in the NHL. So, yeah, definitely the first game was the best one.
Wow. So I saw your interview with the Good Sports Media on Instagram Live the other day. She's an up-and-coming reporter, and obviously she's the daughter of Jeff Goodman. So what did you learn about that interview? And she's a great interviewer too.
You know what I like when the young kids get involved. This is a great business, and you know what? Now with the internet and that, they have so many more opportunities and options. And I love how aggressive some of these young kids get to get out and want to start. You know, years ago, I don't think you'd ever have the guts to call somebody that played in a national sport or something like that to come on. And these kids got it. But when they do come on, they're prepared. So it's not just shooting from the cuff, and they're not just asking stupid questions. They're asking good questions because they've done their homework. And, I see all those kids now, and I tip my hat to them, because I never, ever had aspirations of getting into this business. And, sometimes I still think, why the hell am I doing it? But, I just kind of fell into it because nobody else wanted to do it. But, for these kids, I like it because they've got a dream. They know what they want, and they're not sitting around waiting for somebody else to hand it to them. They're going, getting the experience, and the best thing you can have in anything is experience. So, yeah, I've done a number with some local kids here, college kids that, they're trying to put stuff together like this and trying to get their name out there and just trying to get that overall experience in this environment. And they've done a fabulous job.
Actually, you know what? This is our first hockey guest that we had on, actually. By the
Really?
way. Yeah, for my podcast, for his podcast and our podcast. So.
Well, your ratings are going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
Because you finally got a real man sport on your show.
Rob, I'm just telling you, I've been struggling to get hockey guests, especially for my pod, but for you to come on me and with Nate means a lot to me.
Yeah, that's why
I love hockey. Hockey is my passion. Yeah. A lot of people talk, well, baseball's better. Listen, you're not a real man until you put on the skates and you take a check to the mouth.
Yeah. You're right. You lose a few teeth, and I'll tell you what, the more bruises, the more black eyes, and the less teeth you have, chicks love it.
Yeah.
Chicks dig it. It's a warrior thing. Now, here's my last question before I prepare for the other thing I gotta do. And this is actually important to me, and it's about growing the sport, especially with there's a lot of people, especially like young minorities such as myself, that don't seem to like hockey as much as like I do, or not as interested. Like, we know we have PK Subban, then we have Seth Jones in there, and Jordan Subban is Weekend's brother Malcolm, and we
got Kyle Postal here in Buffalo.
That too.
Yeah.
How can the NHL grow the sport so that more minorities, particularly more black people, can also start playing hockey too, and not get known as, well, hockey is just a blank man sport? How can hockey grow that more?
Well, I think there's a lot of areas that are doing it. I think the NHL does a fabulous job with it, getting inner city kids involved in the game. I know Hashik's Heroes here, it's called, and it's all inner city kids. And, we support it as our alumni, and Dom started it years ago. A good friend runs it here now. So, you're giving the opportunity to these kids to come out, because I think a lot of the times it was financially, the expense of equipment and ice and all this kind of thing. All that stuff is being given to them to give them the chance to see if they like it, to be able to play. And I'll tell you, it's come an awful long ways, and it's given an awful lot of kids an opportunity to get out there and experience something they might not ever have. And now you're looking at them, and they're like, these kids are loving the game. We've had kids that have advanced. We've had kids that come through Hashik's Heroes that have gone on and got scholarships and played junior hockey and all this kind. They never would have had that chance if these programs didn't start. And the NHL is the Hockey in Harlem program and all that kind of thing, that they bring it to them. And it's not just Hashik's Heroes here in Buffalo, but I think majority of the NHL clubs across the board are reaching out to the inner city kids to give them the chance to play, because you never know until they get the chance.
Right. Yeah. So the last thing here before we let you go, would you like to say anything to the nurses and doctors and essential workers?
Yeah, you know what? It's my sister's a nurse back home, and I've heard the stories, things that she's had to experience, and it's just crazy what they've had to go through. And I just, you just got to sit back and thank them for everything they've done. The sacrifices are sick, because they're putting themselves in the harm's way to try to stop this and make it good for everybody. So I give them an awful lot of credit for it. And, once again, just thank them all for what they're doing.
Sorry.
And not only that, and we thank you, Rob, and thank you again so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, guys. I just got to say, go Mets.
Let's go Yankees.
Let's go Mets.
Let's go Yankees.
Go Yankees, bro. Take it easy, man.
I went to a Mets game last year. We took a bunch of Wounded Warriors down there for Buffalo. We spent a few days down there, and I'll tell you, it was a great experience. We stayed over at Times Square in there and took the subway down to the game. It was awesome. We had a great time.
That's amazing.
By the way, is your son team's winning right now?
Right now they're playing the year older, and actually my son is not a pitcher, and he's on the mound, and he just gave up a hit. So it's okay. He told me he was a natural-born athlete.
Look at
what?
Look
he goes,
at you,
I'm a natural-born athlete. And I go,
look at you, man. You got a natural-born kid.
Yeah, no. I just finally got him a haircut so you can actually see the ball coming at him. The other night, he took one right in the eye. Ball came up, bounced him in the eye because his hair was hanging down. So he's got a great shiner in his eye right now. Man. It's awesome.
Well, he's a real man. He took a shiner.
Yeah, no, he's got his first shiner, so he's pretty happy about it.
Well, Rob, as always, man, thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on for Puck Luck and for NR Sports Hour. Thank you again for coming on to talk some hockey. I loved it. Thank you again.
Guys, anytime, you do a great job. Keep it up.
Yeah, thank you. And that's why the reason why when you agreed to come on the podcast, I told him right away, would you like to come on? It's a hockey person. He said yeah. So that's the reason.
It's a hockey guy. Any hockey guy you get me. Yeah. That's how it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He carried the show.
Yeah.
There you go.
I let him carry the show. It's good.
Yeah, no, that's good. Anytime, guys, more than willing to help you out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, boys, take care.
Yeah, stay safe. Stay safe.
Bye-bye. Yeah, you as well.
Thank you. All right.